Well, my dear students, welcome to my class. This is for 8th students. Okay, now this is the continuity of materials, metals and non-metals. Metals and non-metals. In the previous class, we are discussed about the chemical properties of some metals and non-metals. Metals and non-metals. In that chemical properties, so many type of chemical properties like that reaction with acids, reaction with bases, reaction with air, reaction with water. Like this, we have did so many chemical reactions. In this class, I am going to discussing about the displacement reactions. What is this? Displacement reaction. Displacement reactions. Displacement reactions. So for this displacement reactions, we need an experiment. We need an experiment. So that is for this experiment we need 5 beakers. 5 beakers, that is 100 ml beakers. 100 ml beakers. For this 100 ml beakers, each beaker contains 50 ml of water. Each beaker contains 50 ml of water. For this water, I am going to add corresponding chemicals. The chemicals are like this. Beaker A contains copper sulfate and zinc. Copper sulfate and zinc mixture. Here, copper sulfate, aqueous copper sulfate is in blue color. Aqueous copper sulfate is in blue color. Already water is there. For this water, copper sulfate crystals are added. Okay, now copper sulfate crystals are added for A and B. Okay, now and B, copper sulfate plus iron. Fe is the symbol of iron. In the C, zinc sulfate ZnSO4 plus copper. This is the colorless solution. So beaker D contains FeSO4, iron sulfate, that is FeSO4 means iron sulfate and copper. Then beaker E contains ZnSO4, zinc sulfate and iron. So this is the setup of the experiment. This is the setup of experiment. So in this reaction, in these beakers, we have to carefully observe the chemical reactions by changing their colors. So carefully observe beaker A and B. Carefully observe beaker A and B. So let's see what happens. So when this zinc reacts with copper sulfate, zinc reacts with copper sulfate, which gives a product. So let's write the chemical reaction of this beaker A. So we have zinc and copper sulfate, CuSO4. CuSO4. Zinc, Zn is the symbol of zinc and CuSO4 is the symbol of copper sulfate. So this gives, the product is like that, ZnSO4 and Cu. So what happens in the products? Let's see the reactant side. So this sulfate is present with the copper. In the reactant side, sulfate is present with the copper. But in products, let's see what happens. So this sulfate present with the zinc. Present with zinc. That means here the zinc can replaces the copper. Zinc can replaces the copper. That is what displacement reactions. So zinc can displaces or replaces the copper. Here zinc is a metal and copper is also a metal. So displacement reactions means it is a chemical reaction. It is a chemical reaction in which one metal can displaces the another metal. One metal can displaces the another metal. This is what we call displacement reactions. What we call displacement reactions. Can you tell now what is meant by displacement reactions? It is a chemical reaction in which one metal can displaces the another metal. Here in the particular examples in beaker A, in this beaker A, zinc can replaces the copper. That's why we have to obtain zinc sulfate as a product. Zinc sulfate as a product we obtain in the product side. Okay na? Like that, similarly in beaker B. Similarly in beaker B. So let's see what happens. Beaker B. So now we have iron and copper sulfate. Iron and copper sulfate. Can you guess the products in this second reaction? Of course, FeSO4 and copper. Here in this reaction, this Fe is replaces the copper in this C. Copper is in elemental state. In the reactant side, iron is in a elemental state or a single state. Okay now. So this is also an example for displacement reactions. What happens in this? This iron is displaces the copper. That's why we observe the iron sulfate in the product. In the place of copper, we observe the iron in the product side. That's why I am calling a displacement reaction. Iron can displaces the copper. Iron can displace the reactions. After these reactions, these blue color solutions, beaker A and beaker B. In this beaker A and beaker B, the color will changes. The blue color will shades or disappearance of blue color. It will changes into red colored powder. Red colored powder settled in the bottom. This red colored bottom we call as copper. This is blue color is shades or disappears. So this is what a displacement reactions. Similarly, this C, D and E, this type of reactions we cannot observe. We cannot observe. So for our kind information, generally we think in this copper can displaces the zinc, we get the copper sulfate. For simply I am written. So here Cu is there now in the beaker C, copper reacts with zinc sulfate. So the product is like this, CuSO4 and Zn. Like now, this is our convenience. If it is not possible, just I am telling. So just tell because of your understanding purpose. So in beaker D, so this copper reacts with the FeSO4. The product CuSO4 and Fe and iron. This iron reacts with ZnSO4, which gives FeSO4 and Zn. These are not possible. This type of reaction does not conduct, or these are the wrong reactions. Why? Because of in science we have a rules, certain rules we have. All are we should follow that rules. So in beaker A, so this zinc metal is there now. So zinc metal can replaces the copper, and also iron can replaces the copper because these zinc is more reactive. Zinc is more reactive than iron and copper. Zinc is more reactive metal than iron. Yes, iron and copper. That's why this more reactive metal can replaces the less reactive metals. More reactive metals can replace the less reactive metals. So carefully observe this point. More reactive metals can displaces the less reactive metals. More reactive metals can displaces the less reactive metals, but less reactive metals cannot displaces the more reactive metals. Please note down this point. So here zinc is more reactive. That's why zinc can replaces the copper and also zinc can replaces the iron. So we have a one series of metals. So which one is more reactive and which one is less reactive. So in the future or in the higher classes, so we can study or we can detailingly. Okay. So this is what displacement reactions. Displacement reaction means it is a chemical reaction in which one metal can displaces the another metal. Okay, na? Because A and B are examples for displacement reactions. C, D and E are not comes under or not belongs to this displacement reaction because of this copper and irons are less reactive than this zinc. Okay, na? So please remember this note or this point. More reactive metals can displace as the less reactive metals, but less reactive metals cannot displace as the more reactive metals. Okay, ma? This is the very important class for our future classes. For first PUC, second PUC, this is very important. This is the basics. Okay. So this is all about the displacement reactions. Okay, Nama? This is the completion of the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. In the next class, we will discuss the uses of metals and non-metals. Okay. Thank you.